It's Adam from the Wickets, and it's Alex from the Wickets, and it's plug time, man.
Yes. I need some plugs. Look at my hair. I look like a Cupid doll.
That's not what I was going for. Cupid.
A Cupid doll.
Cupid?
Yes.
What is that? What is that from?
It was a little doll that they had like at, you would throw the balls and knock over the milk jugs and everything.
The fair?
Well, like a carnival setting or
sure.
What's it in Atlantic City? What's it called?
The Boardwalk?
Yeah, I don't know. So
Atlantic City Boardwalk. I think I don't know. I never went either. I was right there.
I know you didn't do it.
You were right there too.
Stuff
I mean, for like
a
money.
I talked about you the other day. Talking about going to the Barefoot in the Park filming location.
I saw the picture randomly pop up on Facebook.
I did. I couldn't find it, so I just recreated it and did it again as a split screen of Adam and Robert Redford popping up behind the same statue.
I look better.
But we had to go find the statue. The statue was not where it was in 1960 whatever when they shot Barefoot in the Park. They had moved it to a different part of Washington Square Park, so we actually did a little archaeology and found it. So.
But it was actually in Rachel's favorite park. She loved Washington Square Park.
And the arch is visible in the movie too.
Yeah.
And the house is right there on that same street. So
we've been back like 4 or 5 years now. Yeah. And she still watches TV all the time going, "You remember that? Does that look familiar?" And no.
I was forbidden to do that. because like I kept going, I've been there. Hey, wait, pause. See that statue right there? Okay, that's right across the street from. And my wife was like, this is like you talking about some other woman you dated. And I just had
Debbie.
I had to stop. I stopped talking about my trip to New York. So
trust me, it wasn't that much fun. I wound up with a lot of blisters.
That was your own fault. So.
Again, money. That's not what we're here to plug. We're not here to plug memories, however. We're not here to plug hair. I think it looks fine, by the way.
No, it doesn't look fine.
Sure, it's distinguished.
It's growing, but
it's also cold outside, and you were in a boggin earlier, so what are you gonna do? No, we're here because you wrote a book.
I wrote for a book. Yes,
you wrote for a book.
This is by Sequart Publishing, and this is Somewhere Beyond the Heavens, exploring Battlestar Galactica, and I had written for one of these editors, Rich Hanley, before on 2 other Sequart books about Star Wars. So this one was, I got the email knowing, hey, I'm doing another book with a different co-editor, Lou Tambone, and it's about Battlestar Galactica, and send us a pitch.
So I know nothing about Battlestar Galactica. I thought this was Star Wars.
No. That's a common misconception, and I think I touch on that in one of the essays. That's kind of how I got the job. They said, talk to us about Battlestar Galactica. And I said, wow, the previous 2 books that I had written for them, for Rich, were Star Wars related. Mm-hmm. And I said, everything I know about Battlestar Galactica is filtered through Star Wars. It's, how the show itself was sort of like a fix in 78 when you'd seen Star Wars in 77 and you wanted more of that. And no second film was coming out till 1980. Hey, this TV show is pretty close. I'm going to watch that. But then you go back and look at it 40 years later and you're like, wow, this really didn't hold up. And it's not as good as I remembered it being when I was 8 years old. And the other thing was how the action figures for Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica were very compatible. And everybody collected them both and had them, commingle. And they said, well, we like both those ideas. And I thought it was one idea. I thought I'd articulated a single pitch. And they said, so break it into 2 pitches for us and do 2 essays. And so at the time, this book was supposed to be 2 books, and it was supposed to be 40 essays for the 40 years that Battlestar Galactica had existed, and it just barely made the date. It came out last year in 2018 in December. And but along the way, they said, you know what, we're going to do it as a single volume. And I'm like, do you still need both my essays? And they said, sure. So I'm in there twice. I am contributing 2 essays to this book. So.
Now, I obviously, as I said, I don't know much about, I don't know anything about Battlestar Galactica. I barely know anything about Star Wars. But I do know that this is one thick book. You're talking 40 essays in here.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I haven't written anything. Jay Sandlin writes books. He sneezes and a book comes out. You've been writing essays for books and for magazines for how many years now?
Oh, since I was in my 20s. So,
good. So like how many years now?
that would be close to 3 decades.
So I'm looking at this going, the 40 essays in here. Your 2 are in the first 5.
Yeah, I don't think that's significant or anything. Yeah, I'm on page 36 and 67. But in the
They're both 10 pages.
In the arc of
20 pages
Battlestar Galactica's history, obviously mine were both about the 78 show.
Debbie, you might want to check on what your boy's watching.
So who's
and
that?
looking through. I don't even know.
I don't know who that is. And so then, it gets into the more modern, the reboot of Battlestar Galactica and different things. So I'm sure those are towards the end of the book, and mine were very 78 focused.
Marvel Comics covered
Yes.
Battlestar Galactica.
And I've got photos in my chapters as well, where I took photos of a couple of action figures in my collection.
Now, see, you talked about the action figures intermingling, and I immediately thought that's exactly what happened when I made my WWF wrestlers face the WCW wrestlers.
Yes. I have seen you do stuff like that before.
Last week.
This is the second essay. So there's like 5 of my action figures, the only 5 that I could find in time. And there's some of my vehicles. And then this one is actually, it's going to be really hard to get it to focus. But they took one of the figures. Actually, they had used the same body for both Starbuck and Starbuck and Dama. And then a couple of years later, they actually turned that same body into the Mork from Ork figure. So I did a cartoon photo. It's like I took a photo of the toys and then I put cartoon word balloons on there. And then in the other one, let me see if I can find it real quick. There's not a lot of graphics in my other one, except this one is a screenshot from the original pilot for the show. And the special effects artists in this matte painting had gotten so upset about their working conditions and long hours and low pay that they actually put a dirty message to the director hidden in the skyline, and we're not going to say it. Yes, so that's a little and I had a long series of emails with the editors.
Was this a Disney production?
Whether or not we were going to say in the text what those 2 words were. And I kind of said, well, I generally tend to, with my personal brand, go kid friendly. So if we could avoid me having in type those, that particular word, I would appreciate it. And so once they got it all set up and they put the graphic in and they circled it in the matte painting and everything, Rich Hanley was like, you know what, I do think it works better that way, because you say there's an obscenity hidden, and then they're like, what? Where's the obscenity? And the obscenity,
exactly
and then
I did.
They got to go find it and look for it, and then it engages them and it pays them off as the reader. So yeah, but this is by Sequart Publishing. You can buy it online. You're talking about how heavy it is.
That's a big book.
Well, since I wrote 2 essays, and I didn't really think about this, they sent me 2 author copies. So double that. And it couldn't fit in the normal boxes they had. They had to put it in a box like this big and weight it down with all this cardboard and paper and everything. So I got this huge package in the mail. I'm like, what is in this box? And it was very heavy too. So.
This has been First World Problems with Alex New. Oh no, my author copies came in a box that was much too large.
Well,
I was confused. I thought my coffee table had arrived.
No, I mean, I don't want to come off like arrogant and say, I wrote a book, you should go buy it. Look at my hair. I mean, obviously, this is going to humble me. Any appearance that I'm making about stuff that I wrote.
That's God's little way of making sure you don't get too far. It's like, hey, you're very talented. Give me a couple more hairs.
Boom. You're fatter and balder every day. But the thing was, on the Star Wars books, which were 3 books, they said, send us 3 pitches. So I sent 3 pitches. They picked the first and the third, and they said, your second one is virtually identical. And it was eerily similar. It was like, reuses of Star Wars costumes on TV shows and skits from the 1970s. That's how specific it was. They said somebody else pitched the exact same thing, and that was his only pitch. So we're going to let him do that. We're going to put you in book 1 and book 3. I'm not in book 2. And then come along to the Battlestar book, and I sent in a single pitch, and they broke it into 2. And it was like I got back my missing Star Wars pitch almost. So yeah. And I specifically mentioned Ghostbusters in both of these Battlestar Galactica articles.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. Who would think I could work that in somehow? So. But yeah, go look online, go to Sequart Publishing, order yourself a copy. There's also e-copies if you don't want to have a big heavy book, cluttering up your bookshelf.
Somewhere beyond the heavens.
Exploring Battlestar Galactica, edited by Rich Hanley and Lou Tambone, and there are 40 essays in here covering all sorts of topics about BSG, including vintage Mattel toys and Battlestar Galactica as a fix for addiction. Those were the 2 that I contributed.
Man, I struggle to write emails, and everybody else in the Wickets is getting in books, and that must be why I'm the good-looking one.
Oh, God. I was going to say that's why you have toddler brain all the time.
Oh,
You're just like,
yeah, it does.
I can't write sentence.
Apparently, I can't call it toddler time anymore. It's preschool brain, but whatever. All right, we got to go because I think my camera's about to run out of memory. Somewhere Beyond the Heavens, Exploring Battlestar Galactica. I remembered the subtext, but I didn't remember the main title. Go check it out. Support Alex, and awesome.
And by your command, they'll get that. You don't have to. It's okay.
That's good.